Welcome back to another episode of Adrenaline Seek Outdoors. Today, we're going to be talking about release aids and different anchor positions. We've kind of done a similar video with a back tension versus hinge release, but today I want to talk about just kind of a couple different release aids, and then I'm going to draw the bow back and talk about where I like to anchor and just where I think a good starting point for people is if they're new to archery and don't know what an anchor is and that type of deal. So starting out, traditionally you have two different style of releases. You have a finger release, a wrist strap release, or you have a handheld like this. So this is a hinge, but what I mean by a handheld is you hold it with your fingers. You can have a hinge like this, you can have a thumb button, which is the same thing. It's just it's going to have a button here that makes it go off, kind of like the finger release there. And then you have back tension. We have a video on a hinge versus back tension, so if you want to learn about that, go watch that. But yeah, so that's kind of a couple different types of releases. If you're starting out and you have no clue where to start, I would recommend going and getting a wrist strap finger release. It's pretty simple. That just clips onto the bow, and to make it fire, you squeeze that, and then that releases it. So it's a super simple kind of fail dummy-proof release. It's going to work really good. If you shoot it the right way, it's going to shoot really well too. You know, you can shoot any one of these releases the wrong way, and if you shoot them the wrong way, obviously it's going to be tougher. But what I want to do today, I'm going to get the bow, get an arrow in there, and I'm going to draw back and kind of talk about my different anchor points with a wrist strap versus a handheld release. So let's throw this on here. A tip I always recommend with your wrist strap, you know, make sure that this strap is always at the same spot on your wrist every time. You know, you don't want it right here one time and then it be way back here the next. You know, always put that wrist strap in the same spot, and that's just going to help you have a more consistent anchor. If it's back here one time and up here the next, it's going to change the length of your release, and then that changes your length of your draw, and that affects your anchor and everything else. So let's get an arrow in here and draw back, and I'll kind of explain a little bit of my anchor. I'm just doing this inside. I'm not shooting, but we're gonna put an arrow in there in case you know, anything bad happens. So gonna clip in here, and we're gonna get drawn, and I'll talk about where I like to anchor and stuff a little bit. So we're gonna get drawn here. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to put the base of this knuckle right there in my ear, and I kind of make a C with my pointer finger and my thumb. That's gonna go behind my jawbone, and then from there I put the tip of the string on my nose just like that, as well as the string in the corner of my mouth, and then I wrap my finger around that. And from there, I'm going to go through my shot process and fire the shot. So that gives me a lot of checkpoints. It really gives me about 4 checkpoints. So checkpoint 1 is going to be that knuckle right there in the corner, right there where my earlobe is. And then I'm going to make that C, and that thumb is going to go behind my jawbone right there. So that's 2. And then I'm going to have the string in the corner of my mouth as well, and the tip of my nose. So that gives me 4 different checkpoints that I can hit, that I know when I have all 4 of those checkpoints, I'm going to have the same anchor every time. As well as I always make sure I line my peep up with my sight housing. That's another one. So I mean, there's 5 different things there, and that has really helped my consistency with shooting and everything, just because I have, you know, 5 different things that I'm going through every time I shoot. Okay, that's lined up, that's lined up, that's lined up. I'm good to go. Once I get those lined up, I start my shot process. My shot process with the wrist release is going to be the same with anything else. I'm going to wrap that finger around that trigger, and I'm not trying to squeeze it. You know, you can get a bad habit of that, but that's not how I shoot it. I wrap it around, and once I have it wrapped around, I'm going to push and pull using back tension, and when you do that, your finger is going to naturally pull against that trigger, and it's just going to squeeze off really slowly with a surprise release, which is what I look for and what I encourage people to look for. So that's kind of the basics of handheld release, or excuse me, a wrist strap release. I recommend getting one that's adjustable. As you can see, this one here, it uses just string, and you can adjust it to make it shorter or longer, whatever you're comfortable with. I do recommend starting out with it shorter. You want to be able to get that finger fully around that trigger where you can use back tension. You know, I don't like it when it's out here on the tip of my finger, and I don't want it too far where, you know, my finger or my trigger is there at the base of where my finger and my hand meet. I don't want it too far. I like it at that second knuckle, and that's what feels comfortable to me. But yeah, I definitely recommend if you're starting out, get you a wrist strap. It's going to be probably a little bit safer. You know, not as many dry fire or, you know, accidental releases as what you could have like with a hinge or a back tension. Man, so many big deer get killed every year with that thing right there. So there's nothing wrong with it. If you shoot it right, it can be great. Just like anything, if you don't use it the right way, you can get in some bad habits. But I think if you shoot it right, using back tension, getting that surprise shot, you're going to love it. So kind of switching over to the handheld here. Like I said, this can go for a thumb button, it can go for a back tension or whatever. So I'll kind of talk about it and then I'll draw the bow back. So how I'm gonna anchor here, when you have this release, as you can see, there's a V right here with you know, where those two knuckles meet, and kind of the same thing. I'm gonna draw back and I'm gonna put that V at the corner of my jawbone there. So that goes there every time, and that's where I'm gonna be. And from there, same thing. I'm gonna have the string barely touching the corner of my mouth and the string on the tip of my nose, my peep sight lined up in my sight housing, and I'm good to go. Once I have all those things set, just like the wrist release, I know I'm good, I know I'm where I need to be, and then I start executing the shot. One thing that I will talk about a little bit is face pressure. It's kind of a controversial deal. I like to have as little amount of face pressure as possible. What I mean about that is I don't want to be really pressing against the string on my bow. I don't want to be pig nosing, is what I call it, where my nose is on the tip of that string and I'm pushing my nose up. When a bow is under tension like that and the string's back, any little pressure can affect your accuracy downrange. It can cause your arrow to do weird things. It can cause tuning issues. So when I say I'm just touching it, I mean I just barely want to feel it there in the corner and barely want to feel it there on the tip of my nose. I just want to just barely be there. I don't want to be putting a bunch of pressure where it's going to affect anything. But I'll draw back here and kind of show you what this anchor looks like. So as you can tell, I got that V in the corner there. I'm barely touching it with the corner of my mouth and the tip of my nose, and then I would start to execute my shot. But it's a good solid anchor. It's in the same spot every time. And I know, if you're starting out, have a process. Break it down. So, okay, draw, come into my anchor, go through all my checkpoints. All right, V in my jawbone, string in the corner of my mouth, string on the tip of my nose, peep sight housing lined up, and then start your shot process. Once you do that over and over and over and over, it's gonna naturally kind of come. I don't have to think about that when I'm shooting at a deer, or I'm at a 3D shoot and I have I'm shooting 50, 60 arrows. I don't have to go through it necessarily like that. It kind of comes second nature. I know I got to get to all my spots, and when you do it enough, you're there. But yeah, so that's kind of just a little breakdown, a couple different types of releases and different anchoring spots. Other people are going to anchor in different ways in different spots, and that's great. The main thing is that it's the same thing every time. Make it repeatable. That's going to be huge. And then do, like I said, do the same thing every time. If you draw back and you're anchored down here one time and then up here the next, that's going to affect a ton of things, especially at distance. So have just a repeatable deal that you can do the same way, and I think you're going to be really, really accurate with it. I know this is a little bit of a simpler video, and there's a ton of videos out there, but for some of you guys that maybe this is your first time watching an anchor point video or a release video, I just wanted to be really basic with it, because I think you can overcomplicate it a little bit. I mean, it's simple, but people don't think about it. You know, people want to be quick to change their setup. Oh, you know, I'm not shooting good, I'm gonna change my rest on my bow, or I'm gonna change arrows, or change sights. But you know, look to some of the basic things first. Look at your anchor point. Are you anchoring at the same spot every time? Take a video of yourself, just like you're watching me do here. Go set your phone up, set a camera one up, draw back and shoot, and see if you're at the same spot every time. So that's just a couple of tips. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions about it, you know, be sure to ask us. And until next time, keep seeking.